Hello, everyone. I'm just signing in to share my desktop page. This is Annette Riley. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm hearing a lot of echo, and that usually means that I need to mute everyone who's not speaking, so bear with me for a minute. My apologies for the late start and some unexpected restarts on my computer today. All right, so thanks for joining this session and also for your participation. Starting with the usual reminders about the WebEx meeting, to be on mute if you're not speaking, and please feel free to ask questions at any time. You can use the chat feature or take yourself on mute and ask an audio question. Or we'll have more time for questions at the end. I don't expect we'll need the whole hour for this meeting today. If you have any trouble with the audio or the visual, look at your meeting notice, and there are links and call numbers to use to help yourself get back connected. Okay, here's what we're going to cover today. First off, a little bit about our team status. Officially, as a working group, we have to approve the minutes of each meeting, and so we'll be approving the meeting minutes for our first kickoff meeting back at the end of November. In every meeting, we also have to have the reminder about the IEEE patent policy. We'll talk about our schedule and where we are and the work to do. We are going to have a little overview of the initial review comments. During November, members of the working group reviewed the standard and came up with a bunch of comments. Our next step is to form and small teams with those who completed the survey and said that they would be willing to work on doing the revisions. We'll talk a little bit about the procedures for the revisions and what to do next. Okay, I'm delighted that we have two secretaries who have volunteered to support the working group, Babak and Bakul, and Babak is on this call. Thank you very much. Our secretaries will maintain the roster, the attendance, and the meeting minutes. If you need to change your participation in the group, those are the people to let know. All right, moving on to approval of the minutes. These have been posted on our working group area for several weeks, including the attendance list. And so I'd ask now, is there anyone who has a problem with approving the minutes? Please speak up or say so in the chat. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think I had myself on mute for a minute there. Did you hear me in the last few minutes?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
I had trouble hearing you in the last few minutes.
All right. I think I was inadvertently on mute. I'm not sure if I said anything that needs to be repeated except for approving the minutes. If we didn't hear that part, I have to ask for approval of the minutes. And if there's any objection, speak up now.
That was the last thing I had heard.
All right. Fine. Apparently someone inadvertently put me on mute, and I'm going to continue talking, but I have to keep watching that participant screen to make sure it doesn't happen again. My apologies. Okay. We had 30 members who completed the survey about participation in revising the standard, and 28 of them said they would be available to work on that during January. So during this meeting, we'll discuss the assignments for working on the revisions in small groups. And we have 160 comments from 12 members who provided comments. Also from some people who responded to the survey and said that additional topics needed to be covered, and those have been added into the comments. You may have seen the notification. The consolidated comments list was posted yesterday, and we'll be working with this as we continue to revise. But if you did not respond to the survey or post comments, it's not too late to get involved. If you would like to participate in one of the small groups doing the revision, you can still volunteer for that. And if you have comments or revised sections that you want to post, that can be done. I would say it probably would be counterproductive to go out and put out 150 new comments after we've got 160 consolidated already. But if there's a point or two you want to get across, this would be a useful time to do it as we start on the revisions. Okay, we're looking now at our working group schedule. This is a slide that we had in our first call at the end of November, but it's been updated to show our current status. We're continuing on schedule at this point. Our goal is to have the draft ready for ballot by May of this year, 5 months from now. So during December, people reviewed and commented on the existing draft and responded to the survey, and then we took the survey results and produced the consolidated comments and formed the task teams, and that's what we're going to be reviewing in this meeting. What's coming up next during the next 5 weeks through February 10th, working in small groups of 4 to 5 people or more if others are able to join. You'll be preparing and agreeing on revised drafts for the different sections. We'll put all those revised drafts together to make a new draft. Once again, give everyone a chance to review and comment, look at the second round of comments, and prepare a second draft, which will go to the ISO group for its meeting at the end of May. And that should be the bulk of our work. If need be, we may have to respond to comments after the first ballot, but we'll see how it works out. Anyway, back to the immediate future, working on revised drafts for the sections. Some sections received no comments and probably are just fine the way they are. Other sections, people said things like, I'm not sure why this is here. For example, in the section on languages, people weren't sure if there were anything to say on that topic related to our scope. And in that case, the whole section may just drop out. Other sections, people recognize that they need considerable revision. We got some comments that offered specific revisions. We got some comments that just say, I think you should revise this. And those will need a little more work because it doesn't exactly say how to revise it. So the small group will need to apply some thought and experience to what needs to be put in there. Okay, here's the suggested revision process for the small group teams. Your group may function a little differently. That's fine. It is an open process. The teams are assigned to start with the lead and members. And the point of having a lead is to have somebody to get the ball rolling, to organize an initial meeting for the small group, at a time when it's convenient for the participants to get together. We have participants from all around the world, and so it'd be good to check in our working group area, look in the members area, and you'll see what location people are in. Your group may be all in the Western Hemisphere, or you may have members in other locations, and that will influence the time you pick for your calls. So the working group will contact each other using email, teleconference, WebEx, and pick a time to get together. The WebEx that I use for these meeting calls is assigned to me, and I can't give out the number for the small groups to use. If absolutely necessary, if no one in the group has access to Skype or Citrix or other service, I'll try to help. I don't need to attend all of your small group meetings. I could attend if you have a question, or just put it out for the group on the working group area for the group to discuss, if you'd like. Anyway, look at the consolidated comments file and check around the website also. There may be other comments. I did my best to find them all in the last couple of days and put them together, but some people are just now posting a few more comments or have others that may have been missed. And we want to consider everybody's comments. So schedule an initial meeting and walk through those comments, and you in the working group may have some opinions and observations as well. The initial meeting is to decide what you want to do with the comments overall. Some you'll say, oh sure, if they want to add 2 sentences there, we can put those in, that makes sense. Some you will say, I just don't see that this fits, it's just not in scope for this standard. On the consolidated comments file, there are already some editor's comments with guidance on some of the comments, and you can add other guidance there. Some comments will require drafting a new paragraph or 2, or revising the text in a more extensive way. And again, you can decide how to do that. If you want one person to revise your whole section, or if you want to split up and have one person do one subclause or another person do another. None of the small groups have more than 4 or 5 pages to work on, and some have a much shorter section. At least it looks shorter at this point before you expand it. So sometime by this February 10th, you'll assemble your new section based on your work and reviews among the group, and then post it. And the screen capture here shows the places where you should post your revised sections. You can use this as a working area, or you can just exchange things in other ways, as long as by February 10th, your revision for your section is posted in your folder. You'll find the consolidated review comments in this folder, along with a number of the individual comments. Now, some people did not upload their comments to any particular folder. They're just unfiled. And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure how to move them to a folder at this point without notifying everybody, which is kind of a abuse of your email to send you a note that something's moved from one folder to the next. So I'll keep looking at that, but you can find them in the recent documents anyway. The comments have the name of the person who made the comment, and if you're not certain what the person meant, or if you'd like to invite them to your small group call to explain further, you can do that. Again, you can find the contact information in our working group area. Okay, so that's a suggested way of proceeding to get everybody's participation. Some more reminders. This material was also in our first meeting, but it's more important now as we actually start drafting sections. Our draft materials, the minute that it's posted on the working group area, it's copyright protected by IEEE and ISO. These materials are not available for public review or distribution outside the working group at this point. Do not share your ID and password, or do not let other people join the working group site unless they put in an official request to join and identify themselves. We'll use primarily the files and discussions area. I think I can post our working group schedule into the schedule management area. I have not done that yet, but I'm going to give it a try. Active working group members, you can add, edit, or delete files, but please don't disturb other groups' files. Just use these privileges for your own files. When you post a file, you can reply to all or notify everybody about it. Consider whether you need all 148 people on this working group to see what you're posting, or if it's just for your small group at that point. It's okay to work offline and then post if that's more convenient, but it's helpful to use the working group area for our discussion and for posting our final versions. Okay, now we're going to look at who's assigned to each of the small groups. The people who responded to the survey and said they were available often listed a number of sections where they would be willing to work. And you've been assigned to one clause or group of subsections. Everybody got at least one thing that was what they said they were willing to work on. As a reminder, the first part of the standard, which is more standardized by the ISO style, will be updated at the end by the ISO working group, updating the definitions and the references. The scope of the conformance sections are unlikely to change very much. So we did get some comments on those, and you'll see them through the consolidated comments, and those will be handled. But, for example, once the standard's finished and we know what terms and acronyms are used, then we know what definitions need to be included or revised. Okay, now getting into the small group areas. The first group is for Clause 5 on planning websites. Looking to see if anyone in this group is on the call at the minute in the participants list. And I don't, oh yes, Edward Silher, you've been designated as the lead for Clause 5. I appreciate if you will be able to take care of this. Took you off mute if you want to respond. Okay, responding through the chat. Thank you very much. Section leaders were selected based on those who had indicated an interest in the section or had commented. It's kind of an arbitrary choice because I think we have many, many qualified people in the group. Also, it was a point to put within each of the small groups at least one person who appeared to have English as a native language. We have people from all around the world, many of whom for whom English is not the first language, and that's fine. But when the final draft of your revision is put together, the person who has, or people who have English as their native language, should take a pass through it just to make sure that everything is idiomatic. we are writing for an international audience. We want things to be understood no matter where in the world they're used, but we always like to do a check of the English as well. Okay, going on to clause 6, designing websites. The first part of this clause, which is a very long and detailed one, the leader is Raimundo Rodolfo, and he's on the call today. Thank you for agreeing to be the lead for this area. I'm looking to see if others on this call are in this group. Two of the members, Mergim and Arsalan, were on last night's call. Okay, oops, I skipped one. Section 6.6, security. This one needs some special expertise. I see Dipanko is on the call today, and thank you again for your comments on this area, and appreciate your participation here. Akhtar Choudhury and Pat Daggett were on the call last night. I will send out messages to everyone who is named in a small group, just so that in case they weren't able to join the call, they're aware of the need to get started, or let us know if by some chance they're unable to participate in this way. Okay, going on to the last part of clause 6. This part covers privacy, accessibility, translation, and localization. Some big topics here. Hal Lowe was on the call last night, and I see Ajit is on the call now. Thank you again for your willingness to participate. Moving on to clause 7. This is for website platform engineering, a very important section. And in this working area, we have Daniel Dardelier. Daniel is the liaison for W3C, and clause 7 has a clause about working with other standards related to the web, and so naturally we want to ensure that we have the proper citations from W3C. So that was a reason for assigning him here. Okay. Some of the other members, Dade and Danny, were on the call last night as well. Okay, going on to clause 8, Daryl Davis is the lead, and he was on the call last night, as was Raja. I believe Leela tried to join. I'm not sure if she joined the call last night or was going to try again to join today, but I don't see her on at the minute. Some people may be participating only by phone, and I don't see those names all named in the list. And finally, clause 9, site management and sustainment. The lead is Corey Lanhart, who's on the call right now. Thank you for your participation. Also, Walter Escuria Onieva, and appreciate your involvement. Okay. Ray Harbert was on the call last night, and I believe Madhav was as well. Okay. Now that you know where you'll be working, just a few more reminders. We covered this briefly in our first call, but again, now it's very important to keep these points in mind because writing a standard is a little different from some other kinds of writing you may do. It's not a tutorial or a how-to guide. It explains what the requirements are for a web provider or website owner or developer who wants to conform to the standard and have a a standard that is recognized as interoperable with other standards and usable by a wide range of users. So it contains requirements that apply to most people most of the time. It can have some short examples, but it's not a set of instructions or a procedure on how to do it. As we said at the beginning of the call, it doesn't infringe on anyone's intellectual property or copyright or patent rights. Since it gives things that will apply to most websites most of the time, if the website is presenting technical information, it isn't going to require unique technology or anything cutting edge or advanced research concepts. It has to be things that are available to most people around the world. The wording of the standard is very particular for the verbs in English. If this is something new to you, it's often best to just write down what you mean to say and then go back and translate it into using the right verbs in standards language. Most things are written as requirements. The web owner shall do such and such, or shall ensure that something is done. That's something that has to be done to say that you're conforming to the standard. If it has recommendations, things that you think most people should do, but you could comply with the standard without doing it, but it's generally recognized as the right way to do it, then those are worded with should. If there's some alternative ways to do something that you want to mention to give people some ideas about how to make something happen, those are worded as may. Can, the word can is used for something that is physically possible, something that can happen, not for something that a person or group does. Standards worded in English don't include the word must for ISO style or for IEEE style for that matter, nor do they include requirements as commands or imperative statements. In English, that's a sentence that starts with a verb, like shut down the website. It's a way of wording instructions, and the proper way of wording instructions, but again, the standard is not a procedure. Okay, so when you revise the standard, you'll be checking for those types of wording. And you'll be deciding if something is so essential to the standard that it should be a requirement, or if it's just a recommendation. Okay, so what's next? It's not too late to get involved. If you were not listed in a small team because you, for some reason, weren't able to respond to the survey and want to be involved, look through the comments that have already been made, look through the draft standard, and pick a section that you would like to help revise. If the comments say we need a section on something and you can draft it, you have an idea about what it should say and put together a first cut at it, that is super. Contact the small team lead and say that you'd like to get involved and provide your revisions. That would be terrific and a great way to get involved now. If you're on the small team already, then we hope you'll be able to participate. You can reach out beyond your team if you want input from the entire team. It's possible to get that, and we have many, many experts involved, so you'll get a range of opinions. But the deadline coming up is to upload your revised sections by February 10th. And I would say try to have your first small group session within the next week to 10 days if at all possible. Our next large working group meeting will be late February, at which time we'll have the revised sections put together. Okay, we'll finish the presentation and discussion. It's time for questions and observations. If you have something to say, take yourself off mute or reply to everyone through the chat. Yes, I will upload the presentation immediately after the meeting, along with sending out messages to those who are listed as part of a small group. And again, the presentation has the emails for your group members, but you can find more contact information, including phone numbers, on our working group area. Other questions, comments, concerns, items? For small group meetings, we'll be using this WebEx facility. I'm not able to provide this WebEx for others to use. It's assigned to me personally to use for ISO standards development activities. If it turns out that no one in your small group has a WebEx or live meeting or such like facility, teleconference number, then let me know, and I will have to set up the WebEx and join it as host. I can do that on a limited basis, not on an unlimited basis. But let's see how things work out within your working group. It's likely that someone will have Skype or another way that you can meet together. Have you taken any steps for restriction to distribute email to everyone? Okay, we have, there was one person whose email was not set properly and was just spamming us with a ton of email, and that person had to be removed from the working group with that email address, and they understood the problem. For others, we ask that you look carefully when you're uploading something, whether you want your comment to go out to everyone or just to an individual or to your small group. If you just hit reply when you get a message, you're probably sending it back to 148 people. And that's great if that's what you want to do. But we have to work together professionally to avoid distributing unnecessary email. There are also places in my account on the working group area where you can, to some extent, choose to restrict the kind of emails that you receive from the group. Okay. Other questions? Well, this meeting didn't have much discussion of the technical points in the standard, but our work in the next few weeks is going to have a lot of that. We're actually going to get down to business after getting organized and doing our initial review. And I'm really impressed with the type of comments, and thank everybody for the time and participation you put into this. I just want to point out that after this slide in the presentation, there is some background material. This comes from our first meeting. We do have a few people on today who did not make the first call. And I put it in this presentation so that it'll be convenient to have it all in one place. Again, a reminder that you need to join the working group space and establish your account using the My Account and set up an affiliation so that IEEE can recognize you as a proper member of the working group. Again, the purpose of the standard is to provide guidance for and requirements for websites with information, technical information. We have one comment suggesting that we should talk about embedded systems, and that would be a very valuable topic, but it's out of scope for what we're doing on this standard. A little background about this joint revision project. Again, our ISO project editor is Usha Mohan, and she was on the call last night and is monitoring what goes on in the working group. And again, a reminder that the scope and emphasis has changed a lot from the 2001 version from the standard. It is posted on our working group area, but it's strictly background information at this point. We're working from the current draft, not from the 2001 version. Okay, thanks again for your participation. One last call for comments, and if you are not showing up in the list of participants, but you are attending today, would you please send an email to Bob Bach, you'll find him on the working group, to let him know that you were attending so that he can make the attendance list be accurate with your participation. Okay, the meeting will be ending shortly, and once again, thanks and looking forward to your work in the next few weeks.